Hi, we made it to Saturday. Happy Saturday. Sitting in the lazy boy chair. The mama's still sleeping. I ate my breakfast. This time I had some onions, some beans, a little bit of rice, kind of like a jambalaya, just a little bit. I made it for my husband, and I'm thinking it might, I didn't want to eat a lot of it because I don't really know the calorie count in it. So I had a little bit that I added to cooked tomatoes and more cabbage and really vegetable it up. And that's what I do. I am not a light eater at all where I can just eat little portions and oh, I'm so full. So I bulk stuff up with, a lot of vegetables and stuff. I've just always been kind of a big eater. Not always. When I was a little kid, you couldn't get me to eat. But anyway, that's not what I'm going to talk about. We all eat different. Some people are very eat like little birds, and some eat like a horse. Even though I heard that birds eat a lot actually for their body weight. But anyway, so I watched different YouTubers, and I was just thinking about, I'm watching some of the people throughout YouTube that some of them I'm subscribed to, some of them I'm not. But it speaks to, I'm not sure like what age they are. Maybe they're maybe in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I'm not sure. But it has to do with my experience, what I saw in regards to what schools in the area that I was working in when I worked in the school system were teaching. And let me preface this with I spent from September of 2001 until June of 2010 working as a contracted employee in the school system, working with a student one-on-one who was mainstream, included in regular education classes for, and I was his helper. So I was in a unique position to go from fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, all the way up to graduation with this same student who's an awesome, awesome human being. I loved it. Why I worked that job, I also maintained employment with one of my first jobs, the hospital job that I never got full-time hours, but that's where my benefits came from. So, and then I had other jobs throughout my life. So I think this unique perspective of different situations and jobs, seeing the different people at the jobs that I worked with or was around. And so this is the school system. Prior to that, I worked, for about a year on an emergency teaching credential with special education, teaching very small class of kids that had a non-public school IEP. I was their teacher, and the company that I was working for was sending me to school to be able to get that emergency credential while I was juggling, other jobs. So it was I worked a lot. But what I saw in the school that I was at, and I'm only speaking the school I was at, I don't know, I know my daughter went to school in a different district, different city. I wasn't working in the same district that my daughter went to school, but I feel like the message kind of was the same, and I'm not sure about other people, and their experiences. But what I clearly saw was a push to tell these young people in many ways that you need to go to college, to get an education. You just need to go to college. You need to get really good grades now so you'll be able to go to college, as if college would be paid for them. They would get scholarships. It would be covered, all this. Nothing was ever discussed about finances in any class I saw, or taking out student loans and the debt that might be incurred if you go to college and study something that might not be employable. I never heard any teacher say find employable, skills with your job. Not what are you it was more like, okay, what do you want to study? What are you interested in? Not like with that study, with that degree you get, what are you going to do with it? I never saw that, but I did see, plenty of times where they made it seem like, what do you want to do? I heard teachers say this: if you don't get an education, you're going to be, frying French fries at McDonald's and all this, or you're going to be digging ditches, or you're going to be. And it was just, I would sit there. I was considered like a, guest in the school system because I was not a school employee. I was contracted and representing a private, agency that had the contract. So I had to sit there and keep, my mouth shut. And it was, and I would have had to keep my mouth shut as well if I probably worked there because, I'm sitting in the classroom like with the students, but sometimes I think the teachers forgot that I was sitting there. And sometimes I know they didn't forget, but, and many of the teachers were great. So many good teachers, and some of those teachers are not good. And so, throughout my life, I've encountered people who are like, oh, teachers, they're just all saints and they're all this. Many of them are, but some of them are really horrible, the message that they're giving children, and I saw that. I saw that firsthand where it was just like, wow. And I won't go into that in this video, but it brings me back to, with this, okay, I'm thinking now these kids are in their 30s now that I worked with. And the message clear was, you're going to be a loser if you don't have a college education. If you don't get a good job, what, don't you want a house and a car and a this and that push for all that? And it's like education is a business. The act of schooling is a business. If you don't know what you're doing when you're going to school to get that education, you can just see it with the whole textbooks and books involved, how they can change the book that's being used that semester or quarter or whatever system. And then you got to buy more. It is a business. And with any business, it's going to cost you money, time, whatever. You're investing in that to invest in yourself. So if you're not studying something that is going to help you gain employment, you're going to be saddled possibly, unless you're born with like a family that's going to pay or you have the money to pay, then you end up incurring incredible debt because those loans will come. They will come, and you can be basically going through a bankruptcy and get student loans. Because it's separate, because you're not ever going to be able to include a student loan in a bankruptcy. Those student loans, from my understanding, are going to be with you and coming out of your Social Security. Even though many people think Social Security won't be there, don't think that way. It's been there a long time. There's a lot of people who want to protect it. It might not be as much as people thought or whatever, but, it's going to be there. They have been coming up with stuff for so many decades. It's going to run out this date. It's going to run out that date. All this like fear mongering. We'll see. Time will tell. But I know this video is all over the place, but back to young, they're not, they're in their 30s now. Probably some of them in their 40s, but it's just this like push for, what I'm seeing is status, and that's, I guess, maybe always been there to make sure, you got to have the nice house. And then in that house, you got to have the right kind of floor and, the big push for like stainless appliances, people getting rid of functioning refrigerators. So I want my kitchen to be all stainless. I want, my, whatever it is, I need to, buy this kind of furniture because this kind of furniture is so outdated. This push that we have in part is biological within us. It's what got us out of the caves or wherever, it got us to continue to try to better our lives. But what are we trying to do now? What is it that when I'm looking at a floor and think, gosh, I really need a new floor here or whatever, when I have a floor, when you can look throughout the, world's population, some people their floors are dirt, they're on dirt floors. And I know people would say, well, Laura, if you want to live like you're in a developing / third world country, go for it. But, we're living in the United States of America. We don't have to have, floors like that. We have whatever, but we share the resources of the global planet, and people are changing their floor out just because they don't like the color of it or something. It's totally functional, or they're it's just wasteful. I just don't get it. I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. But I know there's so many people that are dissatisfied in life because they just keep thinking that, well, I want to get this kind of car because my car, I just don't like it anymore. Not that it's not running fine and that you can't keep it running, or I want to get this new outfit because, oh, it's the popular whatever label. I don't know. I have seen stuff I didn't know. I'm not into fashion, like big shock, right? And I would see people wearing stuff and then I would find out like, oh my God, that's something that's like fashionable and kind of expensive. And I'm thinking like, it's like really ugly to me, but I don't know. I was really shocked. I'm just like way out of it. Purses, some of these purses that people carry, how expensive they are. And I'm just thinking, isn't that like you're carrying a bag on you that like is a lot of money? To me, that's like advertising that I got a lot of money, and recently in my community, a video caught, a woman getting knocked over by a young man and her purse was taken. And that happens quite often. The sad part is his mother was driving the getaway car. No joke. And it has happened at least 3 times before with this mother-son duo. The mother-son relationship can be such a good one. And, when you involve your son in your criminal activity or teaching him, that's just like, is that the family career or whatever? But anyway, I just ramble, and I know that my tribe out there must be ramblers if they watch, but yeah, I feel bad for some of these younger folks because they have been, I don't know, commercialized to believe that they have to do certain things a certain way to be quote unquote successful, and that success will define their happiness, the happiness. And it's just sad. I think it's just sad because I can see that push like, oh, I need to get this done, or I need to buy this, or I need to buy that. And you can see it at the store, just this, when people are shopping. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Incurring great debt for things that you don't need, and of course you can go buy, like, I need all new furniture. I'm sitting here because I'm at my mom's house, and I brought some of my furniture here because I was going to sell my little place, but I changed my mind because I'm going to go back to it once I'm not here. But that's a whole other story. For me not to be here is kind of sad to think about because it means my mom won't be here. Either she won't be here in body and spirit, or she will be in an assisted memory care place because I can't help her anymore or don't have the ability. So it's kind of, when I think about, people will say, well, Laura, when are you going to go back to your house? It's like, well, I know what it'll take to go back there. It's not a necessarily happy situation, though I would be, part of me, happy to be in my home that I like. And, but I know what consequences, it takes to get there. But yeah, so I have my couch I brought here. That couch I bought in 2005. And I'm rubbing my eyes. 2005. And I have like, it still works. It's over there. I would show it to you, but I'll wait for another day. It's got stuff on top of it. Yeah. So, and I'm sitting in a Lazy Boy that, this Lazy Boy's got to be about 25, 30 years old, but it still works. The furniture in my mom's house, there's a chair sitting over there that is from 1952. She always says she had it reupholstered. That chair, there's different furniture here that I will take, to my little home, because I will never, I'm going to tell you this, never buy another piece of furniture again, because I have all the furniture that I need. It might not be in style or fashionable, but I'm telling you, it works. I will never buy another pot, pan, casserole dish ever again because I have what I need, or a plate or a fork or a whatever, it doesn't need to have a certain pattern, and so that is just, I just think that some people have that so wired into them. That drive is already there. As I said, it's like a biological drive to always try to do better or live better, but to fight that and think, do you have what you really need? Or is this like something that you just want? Or why is that in your head? You think you need it? Just think about that. And that if you're woke up today and you have a meal to eat and you have clean water to drink and you have any type of clothing to put on you and you have a place to go to the bathroom at and you're able to inhale, exhale, and you're still there, You're doing super. And go out there and give a smile to somebody, a hello, hold a door for somebody, be kind. That's all. And you're doing great. You're doing great. Don't let anybody convince you you're not. Peace.